Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Craig Chatchern, and I'm the Dean of Students here at Idaho State University. I'm very happy to be the host of this town hall meeting tonight. So welcome to the COVID-19 Student Town Hall Meeting. The purpose of our meeting tonight is to answer questions related to COVID-19 protocols that the university has put in place in the fall semester. Many faculty and staff across campus have been working diligently all summer to prepare the university to be able to open as safely as possible. While the university can't totally eliminate the risks associated with COVID-19, we've taken some extensive measures to protect our Bengal community. The COVID-19 protocols and measures have all been carefully developed based on CDC guidance and in close coordination with our local health department. It's been a heavy lift for many of our staff, but we've responded as comprehensively as possible. There's still some pending important communications that are going to be coming out this week, and we ask you to check your email regularly for more information about our fall plans. Later this week, information is going to be disseminated by email on the Roaring Back and on the Roaring Back website on some frequently asked questions related to COVID-19 cases and exposure. Some of the work that's been done this summer involves analyzing the capacity of each classroom to ensure appropriate physical distancing, moving some courses either online or to a high flex model, and moving some of our 1,000 and 2,000 classes to larger rooms, and changing the times of some courses to maximize the use of our classroom spaces. Please check your class schedule regularly between now and August 17th to be aware of any changes that may have occurred in your classes. Now, all the work that has been undertaken this summer has been coordinated by 5 committees. These are called our Roaring Back committees. And today we're joined by chairs and members of each of these committees. Again, my name is Craig Chatchern. I'm the Dean of Students, and I chair the Student and Campus Services Committee. The Employee Operations Committee is chaired by Katie Thomas, the Associate Director of Human Resources. The Instruction Committee is chaired by Blake Beck, Director of Instruction Technology Resource Center. The Community Committee is chaired by Chris Boyce, Director of Emergency Management, and representing the Health Committee is Dr. Ron Solbrig, Physician at University Health, and Cassidy McKay, Assistant Professor in the Department of Family Medicine and Pharmacy Practice. We have a number of questions that were pre-submitted. We'll be asking those shortly, and we'll leave any remaining time for live questions and answers. In the meantime, feel free to submit any questions via the chat feature. Ginny Larimore, our moderator from the Office of Marketing Communication, will send a chat now to everyone with those instructions. Additionally, if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you can submit your question in the comments there, and any link shared will be provided in the video description. Now I want to turn things over to Ginny and our panel for our pre-submitted questions. Our first topic of 6 categorized topics is on the current COVID-19 situation.
Thanks, Craig. So our first question, I'm actually going to turn back to you. And the question is, why is the university moving forward to offer in-person instruction given the rise in cases, especially when the case prevalence is much greater now compared to last spring? In addition, why is the university exempt from the guidance that large gatherings should be limited?
As I mentioned earlier, the university can never eliminate all the risks associated with COVID-19. But we're in a markedly different position than we were in the spring because we've implemented proactive and precautionary risk mitigation efforts to promote the health and safety of those on campus. Education, and that includes higher education, is deemed an essential service, and many of our students have indicated that in-person instruction is important to their decision to enroll. With all the measures that we have in place, from high-flex courses, physical distancing, wearing the face coverings, and sanitation, we feel confident that the environment for the time being is as safe as possible, and we will be continually reviewing our situation, ready to make any adjustments when necessary. Right now, about 21% of our classes are going to be online. 26% are going to be offered in a high flex format, and 15% are in-person lectures. About 7% of our courses are labs, and another 31% are dissertations, clinical rotations, or other thesis courses. Universities implemented many public health measures that when combined with each of our own individual efforts will promote the safety and well-being of the Bengal community. Some of these efforts are that we've created a flexible course schedule for fall that allows 6-foot physical distancing in almost all of our face-to-face courses. We're going to be requiring that everybody on campus, faculty, staff, and students, wear face coverings, and we've increased sanitation practices around campus. So with all of these measures in place, and if our campus community members adhere to the public health protocols, risk of transmission of the COVID-19 virus should be very low. We can't guarantee that it's 0%, but it is going to be very low. Currently, the average course size for ISU's 100% face-to-face course sections is about 12 students. The average number of students in our lab sections are 10.5 students, and in our high flex in-person sections, 12 students. Now, these are only averages, and some of our courses are going to be a little bit larger. If you're in one of the larger courses, there's very likely an online or high flex section that you're going to be able to transition to. So overall, we feel that the university is positioned to offer in-person instruction with all of these limitations, but we'll of course be monitoring the situation so that we can adjust when necessary.
Thanks, Craig. Our next question is, why did the university decide to offer in-person instruction rather than online education? For this one, I'm going to turn it over to Blake.
Thank you, Jenny. The university felt that given all the measures just mentioned by Craig, along and with the additional guidance from our public health department and health professionals on campus, that we've created an environment where transmission risk is very low. This does depend on the collective actions of all the faculty, staff, and students to perform the 6 basic actions to reduce transmission. Those are posted on the COVID website. But those 6 actions are: wash your hands regularly, wear a face covering whenever in a public space around other people, practice physical distancing of at least 6 feet, stay home if you or someone in your household are experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, cover coughs and sneezes, and disinfect surfaces and high-touch objects regularly. But the other reason that we decided to go ahead and offer face-to-face was we surveyed students last spring, and many students stated in-person instruction was important to their educational experience, and so we worked to create a safe environment, as safe as possible for that to happen in. And those are the primary reasons why we're moving ahead with face-to-face at this time.
Thanks, Blake. Okay, next question. What is the plan if COVID-19 becomes widespread on campus? Will campus close? And I will turn this question to Craig.
We've gotten this question quite a bit from students, faculty, and staff. Universities worked very diligently over the summer to come up with a framework of public health metrics that correspond with 4 different operational levels. The metrics include community, regional infrastructure, and university-specific items. Our university's health committees reviewed extensive literature and best practices in higher education to come up with the metrics. As I said, they focus on infrastructure, the number of cases, and our ability to respond to spreading infection. These metrics are going to be reviewed on a weekly basis and provided to the university's administrative council, which is composed of the university vice presidents and president, and each week they'll make a decision regarding moving between operational levels if necessary. Our plan for operational levels can be found on our Roaring Back website.
Thanks, Craig. Next question. What should I do if I have symptoms of COVID-19 or test positive for COVID-19? And how should students continue with their classes if that happens? For this question, I'm going to turn it over to Ron.
You're muted, Ron.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ron Solberg, now unmuted. And on campus, we are assuming that anybody who has coronavirus symptoms has coronavirus in order to do proper isolation and contact tracing. So anybody with coronavirus symptoms is going to be treated as such until a medical professional determines otherwise. And our response to that is if somebody has coronavirus symptoms, they need to go home, isolate by themselves as much as possible, report the illness to the University Health Committee. There is a website and phone number where you can report your symptoms and illness. Contact the University Health Center, or if you have your own private practitioner, contact them to report your symptoms and to arrange getting testing done. Contact your professors to let them know that you're sick and you won't be in because of the illness, so they can work with you to arrange makeup. People are living in campus housing. We request contacting the resident assistant to let them know so that they can help work out procedures to keep you safe and to keep you fed and to keep you watered and to keep you working well, and do everything you can to keep yourself safe on campus.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Next question. Will I be notified if someone in my class has COVID-19? And for this answer, I'm going to turn it to Cassidy.
Thank you, Jenny. So as the university learns of positive or probable, so confirmed or probable cases, we will begin the contact tracing process. This will happen for every known positive and probable case that we have on campus, as long as the individual is willing to participate in contact tracing, which is an element of the Bengal Pledge. So go ahead and take a look at that. During this process, the University Health Committee, in collaboration and coordination with the local health districts, the health departments on each of our campuses, will identify anyone who has close contact with the positive or probable case. That definition, close contact, is incredibly important for you to remember and know. Close contact is considered interaction with someone, so being within 6 feet of a positive case for more than 10 minutes. The definition that we've elected to use is a little bit more conservative than what the CDC says, which is 15 minutes. And this is whether or not the person had symptoms at the time. It has to do with their contagious period, which is while they're symptomatic, and then in the 72 hours prior to that. So the University Health Committee, in collaboration with the health departments, will do that contact tracing, and we will notify anyone who had close contact with that person that they were exposed and that they should quarantine. There may be situations, however, an example of this is where you are a student sitting on the opposite side of the classroom from a positive case, where you would not be notified. And the reason for that is because you didn't meet that 6 feet, within 6 feet for a 10-minute close contact criteria. So we will be monitoring that very closely and be looking for anything that's a cluster, and we will use our judgment in collaboration with the local health departments to notify more broadly if we feel like that's necessary. But we also have to maintain the privacy of the individuals who are kindly agreeing to participate in the contact tracing process.
Great, thanks, Cassidy. So our next theme is instruction. And for this first question, I will be turning it over to Blake. And the question is, what is a HighFlex course, and how do I know what days I'm supposed to go to class in person? Can I take HighFlex course entirely remotely?
Okay. This is a good question. It's a new course type that we haven't had on campus before, so I imagine there's a number of people that have this question. But HighFlex is a course design model that presents the components of a face-to-face classroom learning in a flexible course structure that gives students the option of attending sessions in the classroom, participating via Zoom, or doing both. Students can change their mode of attendance weekly or by topic according to need or even preference, and in consulting with their faculty member so that they know who's in class and who's not. If you're in a HighFlex course, your faculty should email you before the first day of classes to explain if you should attend in person or online. If you prefer, you can take a HyFlex course entirely online via Zoom. The other way that a faculty member may notify you about what the schedule is for your HyFlex class is through Moodle. Faculty are being encouraged to release Moodle courses before class starts, hopefully the week before, but that's up to them. But they may have instructions as well as Zoom links and other things available there. So check your Moodle courses to see if they are available before classes start, besides looking in your email for instructions on what you should do, where you should be the first day, for example, if you're in a HyFlex course.
Great, thanks, Blake. Next question. What if I am concerned about in-person instruction? What are my options? And Blake, I'm going to stick with you for this answer.
Okay. Students who are not comfortable with in-person instruction are encouraged to sign up for one of the online classes or even one of the HyFlex classes in the schedule. Students can take HyFlex entirely online. There should be a variety of options for students who want to take courses online. However, if it's not possible to take your course that you need in one of these formats, you can also contact covid@health.isu.edu, an email address. And Ginny, will you post that in the chat? To discuss your concerns, maybe receive some individualized support in navigating your concerns. And if you'd like help changing your course schedule, Central Academic Advising is more than happy to assist you with that. You can contact your advisor by calling 208-232-3277 or emailing again, askanadvisor, all one word, @isu.edu. So those are your options, I think, in that regard. Hopefully there are online options or HyFlex options that you can take advantage of if you don't want to be in a face-to-face course.
Great, thank you, Blake. And I put that number on there as well. So next question. How will student absences be handled, including those related to illness, exposure to illness, caretaking responsibilities, or otherwise? And for this answer, I'm going to turn to Craig.
Thanks, Ginny. Our faculty have put together attendance policies that are going to allow students to be physically absent from class in the event that they're exposed to COVID-19 or in the event that a student is ill. Students are also going to be able to miss class when a household member is ill. They're going to be able to not be physically present in class without any academic repercussions. Of course, students are still responsible for completing all the coursework that they missed and getting it turned in. We're going to ask faculty members to record the most critical parts of their courses, and so that students can do coursework and stay engaged in the course while they're not physically present. For our HyFlex courses, students are going to be able to continue to participate remotely in those.
Great, thanks, Craig. Next question. How will in-person practicums, clinical rotations, student teaching, etc. be impacted? If classes move online mid-semester or for virtual final, how will lab or practical courses be handled? And for this answer, I'm going to turn to Blake.
Currently, so the in-person elements of courses are proceeding with distancing, face covering, and sanitation practices that we've talked about. Practicals and clinics are proceeding, but they may have restrictions based on the individual placement. You'll have to find out from your individual programs if there are any specific issues in those kinds of classes. To help the university adapt to these changing public health situation, ISU has adopted operational levels to move between depending on the evolving COVID-19 situation. So the university, if the university were to move to a different operational level, it might require additional restrictions. Or in the case that the university moves to a red level, then all courses would have to go online. And much like the spring semester, we would have to deal with those courses on a case-by-case basis between faculty and students. I believe that Ginny, can you post the operational level link? It's on the, again, it's on the COVID website. If you go to that on the university webpage, you can look at those operational levels anytime, and that's a good place to keep track of kind of where we're at and what's going to happen if we need to transition because we're changing our what level we're in at the university.
Great, thanks, Blake. And I posted the main site that you referenced for information, isu.edu/roaringback. Okay, and the next question, also on the subject of instruction, how do I know if my class location has changed? And for that answer, I'm going to turn to Craig.
Over the summer, our staff in course scheduling, the registrar's office, facilities, and academic affairs have worked to review every classroom space that we have on campus to look at what we're calling a COVID capacity. So how many students can be in a classroom while having the appropriate physical distancing. And then we've tried to maximize the use of our classrooms, and this also includes using some spaces that aren't traditionally classrooms. And so there will be classes in the student union and some other places on campus. We've also had to change some student schedules as we've re-roomed our classes. And while we've tried to notify as many students as we've been able to when changes have occurred to their schedules, it's going to be important for you to check your class schedule. And I would encourage you to do that regularly between now and the first day of classes. You're going to want to check for an accurate class time, the delivery mode, and the classroom that the class is going to be held in.
Great, thanks, Craig. For this last question in this category of instruction, I'm going to turn to Katie, and the question is, what are classroom sanitation practices?
Yeah, sure. So our facilities team at ISU has worked closely with our public health team and in conjunction with the local health districts to develop a cleaning and sanitizing protocol. So based on their guidance, each classroom will undergo a nightly cleaning of all surfaces and touch points, and then a comprehensive sanitation of the entire space at least every 72 hours. So within 72 hours or less, they're going to have that complete sanitation of the entire space. In addition to that, hand sanitizers will be located at all room entrances, building entrances, and within each classroom, with a protocol for all students and faculty to use hand sanitizer stations on their way into every classroom and as they exit every classroom. In addition, faculty are asked to wipe down podiums, microphones, keyboards, and other shared equipment after each use. And then there will be sanitizing wipes available in every classroom that instructors can use for this purpose or that students can use to wipe down their desks if needed.
Great, thanks, Katie. We're moving to the next theme now, which is operational. And the first question for this is, how will campus services be impacted, such as read gym, food service, etc.? And for this answer, I'm going to go to Craig.
So each of our campus offices have worked over the summer to develop the safest method for delivering their service to our students. Each area in each office is going to look a little bit different, but our students are going to be able to expect to see offices that have adopted safety measures such as markings for physical distancing, increased cleaning and sanitation protocols, and the wearing of face coverings in our campus service offices. Some other examples include the required wearing of face coverings everywhere on campus, and this includes places like Reed Gym. Our residence hall occupancy is going to be less dense than it traditionally is. Our dining options are going to be a little bit different than historically been offered. There's going to be a lot more grab-and-go food options and a lot less self-serve buffet-style dining. Each of our campus service offices can also adjust how they're delivering their services based on the operational level of the university.
Thanks, Craig. Next question. What changes will there be to campus housing? And this is also for Craig.
As I said, we're going to have a lot less dense campus housing. So our students living in the residence halls are going to see a lot fewer students around them. There's going to be a lot of students with a single room. And we're asking students to limit guests to just people who live in their residence halls. We've set aside a number of rooms where we can have students isolate or quarantine if necessary. And in these situations, the residence hall staff is going to help with living arrangements such as dining and meals.
Okay, and Craig, while I have you, how might coronavirus affect student employment opportunities on campus?
We don't expect student employment to be impacted by the coronavirus at all right now. We think that student employment opportunities are going to be available and plentiful across campus.
Great, thanks. And for this next question, I'm going to turn it to Chris. Will busing still be available between Idaho Falls and Pocatello, and will it be safe?
Sure. The university intends to keep running the bus from Idaho Falls and Pocatello. However, there will be at reduced capacity of 23 individuals per bus load to increase the social distancing. Other measures will also be implemented that'll include touch point cleaning, increased air movement, and then regular disinfection like you heard about in the classrooms.
Great, thanks, Chris. And while I have you still, this next question, what is happening to campus events like athletic games, student life activities, etc.?
Well, this fall will be different for campus events like athletic games and other student life activities, but this is temporary. Many campus events will still be taking place, but just expect a new normal with social distancing and face coverings. However, due to the limitations in gathering size, some larger events may be moved to distance-based. Look for schedules, updates about events, athletic games, and student life activities as the fall semester begins. This situation continues to evolve, so additional modifications to our plans may occur between now and the beginning of the fall semester. So remember, we are Bengals, and we roar in all that we do, even when we're social distance.
Great, thanks, Chris. Our next theme is face coverings and shields. And the first question in this category is, will the university be providing masks, otherwise known as face coverings? If so, where can we get one? And I'm going to turn this over to Craig.
Thank you. Yes, you'll be receiving an email next week with more detailed information on how we're going to distribute face coverings for all of our students. But essentially, there's going to be several locations around the Pocatello campus, and for students on our outreach campuses, there'll be one location where you'll be able to go and pick up your face covering. We're going to ask you to bring your Bengal ID, and we're going to swipe your ID card when you pick up your face covering. For students who are medically unable to wear a face covering, you're going to want to contact Disability Support Services to discuss appropriate accommodations and choice and options that you might have with them. Disability Support Services can be reached at 208-232-3599 or at Disability Services, one word, at isu.edu.
Thanks, Craig. This next question is for you as well. How will the university enforce mandatory masks?
Now, being a part of the Bengal community means taking steps to keep our community safe. Wearing a face covering is an important step in caring for our community. We're counting on each Bengal community member to be responsible. But in the event that someone doesn't want to wear a face covering on campus, their faculty members might ask them to leave class. Students who aren't wearing face coverings in campus buildings could be asked to leave those buildings. This is one of the most critical points in being able to have a successful fall semester, in my opinion. And we're really calling on all of our students, all of our faculty, and all of our staff to care for one another in living up to this requirement.
Okay, next question. Are there exceptions for certain places or activities where masks do not need to be worn?
Well, we're going to expect face coverings to be worn in all shared or public spaces, so common work areas, hallways, meeting rooms, classrooms, labs, and when you're meeting with a faculty or staff member in a private office. We're also going to ask you to wear face coverings outdoors when you're in the presence of other people. For students living in university housing, we're going to ask you to wear face coverings anytime you leave your room. This includes common spaces like lounge, elevators, and dining halls while you pick up your food. Really, the only places where you're going to be able to take off your face covering is when you're alone outside or when you're alone with only a roommate or another household member in your residence hall.
Okay, and what will happen if I refuse to wear a mask? Also, Craig.
I think this is, along with how's the university enforcing the requirement to wear a face covering, I think this is one of the questions I get most often. And honestly, this is one of the questions that frustrates me the most, because the premise of the question is, I want to know the consequence if I refuse to do what the university is asking me to do. As I mentioned earlier, as Bengals, we need to take care of our community, and this is one of the most important ways for us to have a successful fall semester. So faculty and staff are going to communicate that wearing a face covering is a requirement for class and campus activities. If a student refuses, a faculty member might ask the student to leave the classroom. If the student refuses to leave the classroom, a faculty member might cancel class for the day and switch the course to distance learning for that day. From there, the matter will be referred to the Dean of Students office, and a student might be asked to not attend in-person courses. That clearly is not what we want to do as a university, and I believe that's not what our students want either. And so if our students are able to care for one another, care for our faculty and staff, it's going to make our semester be a lot more successful.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, we're going to move to our next and final category of other. We want to make sure and leave plenty of time for your questions, our live Q&A on the second half of this. And the first question in other is, are students going to be charged an online course fee? And for this, I'm going to turn to Blake.
So thank you. The short answer is no. Students will not be charged the EISU fee for fall 2020. Students may see that on their bill, and then they'll see also a refund of that same amount on your bill, and the net will be zero for any student. But students that are signed up for online courses may see that the fee and then the refund on the same bill, so the net is zero again.
Thanks, Blake. And then I got word that the number that I posted in the chat for academic advising was one number off, so I just posted that for everybody. So the edited number is below. And we'll get that updated on YouTube if it's not correct there as well. Next question, because courses are online, will students get reduced tuition and fees or reimbursement for tuition if classes move online? And I'm going to turn to Craig for this one.
Well, we understand that these certainly are not ideal circumstances. Our ISU faculty and our staff are working incredibly hard to establish a productive distance, high flex, and in-person learning environment that provides a quality learning experience while still trying to protect, to all the extent possible, the safety of our students and our faculty. We've worked with our accreditation and our certification bodies to ensure that distance-based instructional methods meet all the required graduation and licensure standards. And given that we're still able to provide education that meets those requirements, we're not able to provide reimbursement or reduction in tuition and fees. Our number one goal is to keep our students safe and healthy while continuing to provide a quality education. So while our circumstances are certainly not ideal, we are moving forward with our operations as advised by our public health authorities to ensure the health of our campus community.
Thanks, Craig. And last question before we move to the live Q&A. What about students traveling back from campus or to campus from elsewhere? Do I need to self-isolate before coming to campus? And for this, I'm going to turn to Ron.
Well, we're encouraging students to do everything they can in order not to bring coronavirus onto campus with them. And part of that is, as much as possible, following all the rules of isolation, quarantine, I guess is the official word, at home for 14 days prior to arrival here. So that means not being in large groups. That means wearing your mask if you're out in public places, avoiding contact with other people, avoiding being within 6 feet of people for more than 10 minutes. So yes, we would like everybody as much as possible to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks prior to campus. That gives us the best chance that we can continue classes in person ongoing through the semester. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ron. Okay, our first question in the live Q&A, and again, you can ask questions. If you're listening on YouTube, you can comment and ask questions there, and we'll get to your questions. Or you can ask in the chat feature on Zoom. So that's up to you how you want to do that. And then our first question is going to be for Chris. And Chris, are athletics going to go forward, or is that changing?
I think it's important for everybody to just be aware of, there's always potential for changes between now and the beginning of fall semester. So if there are changes, they'll be posted. I don't have any information about any sport changes at this time.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Chris. All right. Our next question. I've heard rumors that all College of Business in-person classes will be high flex. Is this true? Craig, do you happen to know the answer to this?
I do not know about any particular colleges, or if we could say that about any particular college. Blake might have a better sense of that, but I don't have a good answer to that.
Yeah, so I will take a stab at that. The College of Business is predominantly high flex. They have made a decision there that almost all of their classes will be. If they're not online, they will be high flex. I think that's almost true of, there are still some fully online, but I think that's true of large percentage of the courses in the College of Business in particular.
Okay, next question. Based on the current situation, is there any hope for the school to switch to a full online semester? As far as I know, there have been confirmed cases of COVID-19 on campus and student dormitories, and they've added that they believe this is really dangerous. And I'm going to turn this to Craig.
We have had some students and I believe staff with a positive test on campus, and you can see those numbers on our Roaring Back website. I really don't have a good answer for the likelihood that we will move all activity online this year. I think there's a lot that we still don't know about how this semester is going to shape up in terms of the spread of the virus around institutions of higher ed and around Southeast Idaho. I think students who are nervous about being on campus would be able to put together a fully online course schedule. And like I mentioned earlier, Central Academic Advising would be able to help you with that. The COVID Health Committee would be able to talk to you about some of your concerns about that. But at this time, I don't think we're able to say exactly what the end of the semester might be in terms of being fully online, or the likelihood of that. I think if we do what we've talked about, washing hands regularly, sanitizing common surfaces, wearing face coverings, and follow those common 6 things that Blake discussed earlier, I think we're going to have a pretty successful semester of being both online, high flex, and in person, and I think we're going to be able to do it pretty safely.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, next question. What if class schedule changes, create conflicts in my schedule? What if this creates a loss of credits that negates my status as a full-time student? And I'm going to turn to Blake for that answer.
Well, that's why we want to get everybody checking their schedule right now. There's still time to add different courses, and I would definitely say check with advising. They are going to be best positioned to help you find the courses that you need to stay on track and to graduate on time. And if alternatives are needed, they can help you find those. I think as far as programs and cohorts go, I think the departments have been pretty good about, scheduling those so that people can continue on and that there aren't conflicts in those cases. But I can't say that without any reservation. So again, I would say if you find that in a particular schedule, check with Central Advising.
Thanks, Blake. Okay, this next question is some feedback or commenting on contact tracing and health, and I'm going to turn to Cassidy for this. Given the parameters just described for contact tracing, I would anticipate small groups of classmates suddenly being absent for quarantine/isolation. In other words, even though I won't be notified directly, I would probably notice. I think being upfront with direct contacting would be the more appropriate way to go about contact tracing.
Thank you, Jenny. And those are excellent points to consider, and they're things that we are constantly discussing. We realize that, but we also want to do the very best that we can to maintain privacy and HIPAA information where we can. So thank you for those thoughts. The health team will take those and consider them.
Thanks, Cassidy. Okay, next question. How do you expect students to wear a face mask while working out, especially at a high level without passing out?
Maybe I'll give a shot at that one, if that's all right. This is Ron Solberg.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, it's as we were working through this question, it seems like, well, when you're doing really heavy exercise is the time when the face mask is going to be the most interruptive to moving air in and out of your body. But it's also the time, heavy exercise is the time when people are blowing out the most aerosols, the most viral particles if they're infected. So it's actually the most important time to have a mask on. Again, the highest level of exercise, high aerobic capacity, high respiratory drive, like intense aerobic activities, or choir fits in that as well, is when we're spewing out the most aerosols that other people can breathe in. So it's actually the most important time to have a mask on. And it was a tough decision. We just felt that to protect the community, we had to require masks under all circumstances, exercising indoors. And it can be difficult. We encourage people to bring a couple masks with them, so if one gets wet and it gets hard to breathe through, they can switch to another mask. Do their exercises outdoors if they can, because there's much less risk outdoors. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. Difficult to do those highly intensive exercises with masks on, but again, it's the most important time to have them on.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, next question I'm going to turn to Blake. Many graduate TAs serve as instructor/faculty roles, but are technically students. How will the university communicate important COVID guidance given directly to faculty to this overlooked group?
Well, we're actually providing all the same instruction on the Roaring Back website and the COVID information there to everybody. That is the source for everybody to find that important information out. So I would encourage those in that demographic, that category, to check the website as well, and certainly check with the department as well if there's anything else. But everything that we're trying to communicate is getting posted into that website.
Thanks, Blake. Okay, next question. How will you ensure that students with hearing disabilities won't be severely impacted by face coverings and not being able to lip read interpreters and instructors? So for this answer, I'd like to turn it to Blake to talk about the window face coverings and Craig to talk about disability services.
Okay, yeah. So for faculty, we have made an exception to face coverings where they can substitute a face shield during a lecture. For that, these very reasons that you've brought up here, that their face can be seen, expressions can be seen, and if the lips need to be read, the lips can be read. There is not sufficient data at this point to say that face shields are an adequate replacement necessarily for face coverings, but during the lecture, we're telling faculty you can wear a face shield, and face shields are being distributed to departments. If for some reason there are not enough face shields in a department, more can be requested through Bengal Depot. Administrative folks in your departments can submit that form. You could submit that form, I think, as well, individuals. So there are face shields available. We're also making available there's a number of face shields that could be requested, again, through the depot, that have a clear window on them that can help with that too. I've got one right here that we've been looking at that just have this clear shield on it. So that can also be requested through the Bengal Depot.
And for students who need any type of accommodation, either they need an accommodation for because they're unable to wear a face covering or because they need their faculty member to wear a different type of face covering, please contact Disability Support Services. And I believe Ginny already posted the information, the contact information to contact DSS. But they're going to be your best support and be able to communicate with faculty about what they need to do for their different classes based on the accommodation needs of the students in those classes.
Thanks, Craig. Next question. Will there be temperature checks before students enter campus buildings, and will there be any kind of testing of students and faculty members? And I think I'll turn to Ron for this answer.
So Ginny, I'm gonna jump in with the temperature screening. So there may be a few buildings on campus where temperature screening is encouraged. An example of this would be dental hygiene, and it'll be required for patients who are coming in because that is in alignment with CDC guidance. We are encouraging if groups, entities, programs, or services want to check temperatures prior to a student entering a building or participating in an event, then we're encouraging them to make that voluntary, and there's appropriate screening PPE and things that need to be worn as part of that process. So the utility of temperature screening is in question, and probably not that big of a bang for our buck in terms of the time that it takes to do and how many people we actually catch with a fever, essentially. And a ton of false positives, if you will, in the temperature maybe is elevated because they're standing outside in the sun, and then we don't let them participate in that event because of that. So back to the original question, there will be some places, especially if you're participating in a campus service as a student or a client, where you may be required to have your temperature screened. But other than that, it's voluntary.
Thanks, Cassie.
And if I can jump in as well on that, the second part of the question was testing of students and faculty members. We're not doing any testing prior to coming to campus. A number of reasons for that. The most important one is that testing asymptomatic people, testing people with no symptoms of any kind, is very unlikely that we're going to find people with coronavirus. So the testing itself just has a very low yield for testing people without symptoms. Once people are on campus, anybody who has symptoms, anybody who's exposed to somebody with coronavirus, the campus has testing available at Holt Arena, entryway number 2 on the north side. The University Health Center can help anybody get testing done who needs to get testing done. Contact the University Health Center, talk with them about getting testing done. And again, that is if you are symptomatic with any symptoms of coronavirus or know that you've been exposed to somebody with coronavirus.
Thanks, Ron. And that answers an upcoming question, which is, will there be viral testing available on campus at the pharmacy, or will we have to go to the off-campus hospital for testing?
And the testing site it's on campus, it's at Holt Arena. It's a combination run with a private laboratory named Express Labs, the Public Health District, and Idaho State University. We are hoping by the end of September that we can have on-campus 2-hour turnaround time testing available for students, faculty, and staff. Equipment is being purchased. This is all very new equipment and very new testing procedures. So we're hoping that'll be available both at the health center and other locations on campus. Optimistically, we might have something up and running in 2 weeks. Pessimistically, in the end of September.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, next question. I received an email that you tested 19 people about 2 weeks ago positive with COVID. How do you still feel it's safe to have an in-person classes after this? And I think I'll turn to Craig and he can direct accordingly.
Actually, I'm going to ask Ron to try to answer that. I think you know a little bit more about the testing in that part of what's been done before.
Yes, We have posted weekly data now on I believe it's the Roaring Back website that has the weekly data on number of coronavirus campus positives. 19, a fair number of them were in a couple of clusters, probably about 16 to 17 of them were in clusters. There have only been a handful that have been community spread. We know where those clusters are. We had a small number of students, faculty, and staff on campus this summertime. And even with these positive cases, the current contact tracing and the current infection control symptoms were able to keep those from spreading across campus. So that I actually take away some optimism. While we had 19, 20, 22 cases, whatever we're up to now, the optimism is we were able to identify those and keep it from spreading across campus to other people. That actually gives me optimism that our systems are working and that we will be able to corral COVID cases as they arrive on campus. One of the most important things for everybody to do, faculty, staff, and students, is the voluntary reporting form that is out there. If people get symptoms, if they have known positive coronavirus case, to please use the voluntary reporting form, which comes into our protected in terms of confidential email system at covid@health.isu.edu, so that we know everything that's happening on campus, and that gives us the best chance of catching the coronavirus cases early and not allowing them to spread across campus.
So the self-report form that Ron just mentioned, I included the direct link to it, but you can also find it at isu.edu/roaringback. And I'm going to get that over on YouTube as well. Okay. Next question. Many students are already isolated from immediate family and rely heavily on friends/roommates for social emotional support. This would include larger networks, roommates having separate contact circles, etc. Is the university prepared for this in terms of rapid spread and contact tracing? And will the university provide expanded resources and support for its students, given the increased feelings of isolation?
Ginny, your audio kind of warbled there for the first few seconds of that. Would you mind just stating that one more time?
You bet. Thank you for letting me know that. Many students are already isolated from immediate family and rely heavily on friends/roommates for social emotional support. This would include larger networks, roommates having separate contact circles, etc. Is the university prepared for this in terms of rapid spread and contact tracing? And will the university provide expanded resources and support for its students, given the increased feelings of isolation? And are we prepared for rapid spread and contact tracing? I think maybe Cassidy for that one. And then support for students, given the increased feelings of isolation. I'm going to turn that one to Craig.
Thanks, Jenny. Yes, we are ramping up our contact tracing group, having several people trained that we can call upon if we need to assist with contact tracing. We're also coordinating with the local health districts, especially Southeastern Idaho Public Health here in Pocatello, to coordinate our contact tracing efforts with them. So I will say that we're prepared, and we're working on getting that beefed up and maybe having more than we need. With that said, if that situation changes, that is something that the university is looking at as part of our operational levels. And we'll consider that as the administrative council is making decisions.
Thanks, Cassidy. This next question involves instruction, so I'm going to turn this to Blake. With professors being required to wear face coverings, will they be equipped with microphones in order to be heard while teaching?
I can answer that. Craig, that was a two-part question. Craig was going to respond to something, wasn't he?
Yeah, if I could just interject for a second and talk a little bit about is the campus prepared essentially to help students who are struggling with isolation and other challenges around that. And I would say yes. And we know, as I've mentioned before, the semester that we're heading into is anything but ideal. And so our counseling and testing center has been equipped with telehealth and has been doing appointments all summer and has found that to be very effective. And so for direct counseling services, they are set up and ready to go, and have seen increased numbers, and they've been able to work with those students very effectively this summer. We also know that because we're not going to be able to have the same types of out-of-class experiences that we traditionally have in the same ways that we've traditionally have, I also know our faculty members have been talking about what can we do in classes to create community. And some of our faculty leadership is in the process of developing a tip sheet for other faculty members on strategies and ways early in the semester to get students connected to one another and to the faculty member teaching the course. I think each different unit on campus has different ideas or ways that they want to try to work with students. We know it's going to be different this year, and we know that students are going to be struggling in any number of areas. But I would say our faculty members are committed to trying to be helpful and supportive in the classroom environment. Our student affairs folks, our academic advisors, and people across campus have been spending the summer trying to get ready to help students as effectively as possible. And I would say for any student who's struggling, any student who needs a resource, you can always contact the Dean of Students office, and we will do everything that we can to get you connected to support on our campus as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Craig, and thanks, Blake, for reminding me of that second part. So the question for you, Blake, was, with professors being required to wear face coverings, will they be equipped with microphones in order to be heard while teaching?
Yeah, that's the answer is yes. It is on a case-by-case basis. So if we do have some additional audio enhancement systems purchased and ready to deploy where needed, many of the new spaces that we're teaching in are already equipped with audio. In the sub, for example, all the spaces there have microphones, audio enhancement. For any of the other spaces or faculty that need them, we will provide that technology, that kind of a system in the classroom. And we're kind of, wherever it hasn't been deployed already, we're kind of waiting for faculty to let us know that they think that's going to be needed. And hopefully, one of the thoughts too is we've kind of done a little bit of testing is that the face shields are a little easier to get to hear a person's voice through than the face coverings. And so hopefully that will help in some cases where it's a little bit marginal. That will make it a little bit better situation as well. But we are aware of that. We're monitoring that. And where we need to, we'll provide that technology.
Thanks, Blake. We are at the 7 o'clock hour, but we have a number of questions left, about half a dozen or so. So for any of our panelists who are still free, we're going to stay on for a little bit. And anybody who would like to stay to hear the remaining answers to the questions, we invite you to do so now. So next question, will we receive an email reviewing all the topics covered in this PowerPoint? I'm going to turn that to Craig, but first I will say that we are recording this session, and it will go up on isu.edu/townhall within 24 hours or so from this town hall.
You're not going to get one email with all of this information because from my experience, nobody's going to read that entire thing. I certainly wouldn't. But we've talked a lot about our Roaring Back website. We have all sorts of frequently asked questions and answers posted on that website. And I believe we're collecting all the questions that we get during these town hall meetings and trying to put those questions with answers up onto the website. So you will be getting a lot of email with a lot of different information, but the central place to look is that Roaring Back website.
Thanks, Craig. Next question, what will be the protocol for music activities? Speaking as a music major.
Why don't I take that one on? This is Ron Solberg again. I'm a former oboist and a singer. I signed up for Camerata Singers this fall as part of my fall class load. So what we have done with music is particularly difficult for singers and for wind players, brass and the wind instruments, because of the aerosols that are generated by both activities. With singing, there are some really well documented, really large outbreaks in choirs just from singing together. So as data has become available through the summertime, we are allowing a little bit more activities. For things like piano, percussion, stringed instruments, there's no extra aerosol generation, so those can go along just like we do with all of the other class activities in terms of distancing and wearing masks. For choirs, Dr. Anderson came up with a really novel way of rehearsing a section at a time, keeping 10-foot distancing and wearing masks in the choir room in Goranson Hall. And for bands and orchestra, they are just barely putting together ways of doing similar kinds of things. There's discussions about putting, as weird as it sounds, nylons, pantyhose over the bells of brass instruments to knock out the kind of the brass instrument wearing a mask idea, to knock down the droplets coming out of the brass instruments. Things like oboes, clarinets, flutes are much more difficult because they have multiple tone holes. They don't have just one bell where the droplets are being emitted from. So we are working closely with the latest data we can to keep it safe for music majors, but still try to make it an educational opportunity for them.
Thanks, Ron. Next question. Would the faculty and staff prefer students choose online and high-flex classes rather than in person? Blake?
Sure, I'll take that one. You know, I think the answer to that is it depends. It depends on the faculty member. I think many of the faculty, like many of the students, are actually looking forward to having students in front of them again and that experience of in-class instruction. There is a number that are, you know, like I said, are looking forward to that. I think it depends on the students' preferences and the students as well as the faculty's. If the faculty is really uncomfortable in being in front of the class, they've probably moved their course online already, or will do in the next few days as they're coming back. But we do have more online courses this semester than we've had in the past, and that's primarily due to faculty that are in a population that's high risk or higher risk, or they have somebody in their household that is in that situation. So a lot of those have already moved. There may be a few more that still move that way. So hopefully at this point, it's really close to really just a student preference on whether they go live, whether they do the high flex, whether they sign up for online, or whether they do sign up for one of the face-to-face courses that we are offering.
Thanks, Blake. Next question. Does the university currently have any plans or predictions concerning the spring semester or other future semesters? And if when a vaccine becomes available, will the university require it? Craig, first part, Ron, second.
I haven't been a part of conversations to this point about what spring semester will look like. My anticipation right now is that we're gonna, look very carefully about how things are going through the fall and make some decisions as early as possible as we can through there. But I think we're gonna do everything we can to try to have a spring semester that looks a lot like our fall semester. We want students who want the in-person experience to be able to have that experience. And we've heard from a great number of students that is what they're looking for. And so we're hoping that if folks do the 6 things discussed earlier, washing hands, wearing face covering, practicing physical distancing, et cetera, then we'll be able to do a spring semester that looks a lot like our fall semester as well.
And Ginny, was there a specific component for me? I may have missed that.
Sure, Ron. So the second half was, if there's a vaccine, would the university require it?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I don't think I've even thought about that. That is an excellent question. That is something I have not considered, whether or not we would require the vaccine. Good question. As we get closer to having a vaccine and our team thinks about it a bit more, we can certainly address that.
Thanks, Ron. And next question would be either for you or Cassidy. So the question was about testing availability, which we did cover, but the question was, would we, the students, be paying for the test?
Yes, the insurance companies are always billed if people have insurance. If they don't have insurance, people can get testing done, and I'm talking about nasopharyngeal swab testing, the testing for the presence of the virus. People can get testing done through Southeast Idaho Public Health at Holt Arena, paid for by the health department for people without insurance. So if people have insurance, it gets paid for by insurance. If they don't have insurance, can't pay, it can be arranged through the health department.
Thanks, Ron. Next question will be for Blake. If we have a disability and need a reader for a test, how will we get that extra help and time?
So actually, I mean, in that respect, nothing's really changed from previous semesters. Disability Services is ready. They have readers ready to assign to individuals that need that service. I would say, contact them before a test comes up. Make sure that Disability Services is aware of what the needs are in that situation, and they're going to be able to provide a reader for you. It can be there's a couple of different strategies that can be employed on that, and I'm going to I'll let Disability Services talk about exactly what the best strategy would be for that. And they're not in this meeting, but so if you contact them with that question, they will help make that arrangement, the best arrangement for an individual that needs that particular service or any other service that they can provide through that office.
Thanks, Blake. And while I have you, next question is for you as well. What will happen to a class if an instructor becomes too sick with COVID-19 to teach? And what would happen if they happen to die from COVID-19?
Wow. Okay. Well, so this is, things have happened, illnesses, injuries have happened before, and we would follow the same protocol. The department would find a substitute teacher to take that course on, whether that's an existing faculty member or if we needed to hire an adjunct to take that over. But if we're offering that course, the faculty member becomes unable to continue to teach that, the university would find a replacement instructor for that course so that it could continue and complete in this semester. So that practice, I think, would be the same as we've dealt with in the past, without this situation when injury or illness has cropped up unexpectedly.
Thanks, Blake. And we have one last question. This question is an operational question. Broadly speaking, what does the university anticipate happening regarding an operational level shift? I'm aware that you all have worked to put very effective protocols in place, and for all intents and purposes, the university is prepared for that to happen, thanks to your efforts. But ultimately, the decision to move the university to operational level red will come from you guys or administration. How likely is that decision going to favor moving the university to red? Do you anticipate that we will be moving to the red operational level at some point during first semester, or is that an unlikely situation?
I'll give the first effort to answer that. I think with so many things that you've heard, is it kind of depends. I think the likelihood of changing operational levels is going to really depend on how well our community observes the 6 things I keep referencing: the hand washing, wearing face coverings. If our community does that and is conscientious and thorough about sanitation and caring for one another, I don't think it's very likely that we'll move to the red operational level. If our community ignores some of these best practices, these things that we're encouraging people to do, then I think the likelihood that we move to a red operational level goes up pretty quickly. And so those operational levels, some of the metrics, as I mentioned earlier, some of those are campus specific. But then there's also some regional and local capacity metrics in there as well. But the better job we do observing physical distancing, wearing our face coverings, I think that really makes it less likely that we move operational levels. I would ask if any of our other panelists have a perspective or an answer they'd like to give for that.
Thanks, Craig. And then we had one more question come in as well. What will graduation this year or in the spring look like? Will there still be an in-person ceremony? Chris or Craig, perhaps?
You want to take it or shall I?
Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. So there is a date for fall semester. It's different than what we are used to for fall semester. So it currently is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving is the date that has been set for this year. Let me find that quickly as I scroll through my calendar. That date right now for winter commencement is Tuesday, the 24th of November. And again, there's a lot of time between now and the 24th of November. So look for email updates related to that and also stay aware of conditions, but that is the current date set for winter commencement. And that ties in to the fall semester schedule that also continues through December. However, in-person classes will not continue after Thanksgiving holiday, but the rest of the semester will continue forward past that point.
Thanks, Chris. And that ends our question portion. I'm going to turn it over to Craig for final thoughts.
Well, I want to say thank you to Ginny, and I want to say thank you to all of our panelists for being here and doing your best to answer all of these questions. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to the students and the families who attended tonight and asked your questions. We can't wait for the semester to start. We can't wait to see students back on our campus, in our classrooms, and we want to do so in the safest, healthiest way that we possibly can. As you think of other questions, please feel free to continue to contact the university. We're going to get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Check your class schedules regularly and check the Roaring Back website. Those are the two things that I want you to be able to do regularly before classes start. Thank you again. I've enjoyed all your questions. Let us know if you have any others. Have a good evening.